Today on With the First Pick, talking the best games, standout performances, and biggest storylines from Week 3 of the NFL season. Let's see if we can do it this time. JJ, tell them what time it is.
Hey, it is time for Ran It Back, baby.
All right, he's awake. I love to see it. Ran It Back Mondays with that guy, former Titans GM Carthon, and that's our NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. I'm Ryan Wilson. And as always, on Mondays, we talk about all the stuff that transpired on Sundays. And last Sunday, we saw 5 backup quarterbacks make starts across the league. They went 3-2. So let's start there. Carson Wentz and the Vikings blew the doors off Jake Browning and the Bengals in the old backup bowl. We also saw Marcus Mariota win a game. My guy McCorkle Jones, Rand's guy McCorkle Jones, lead the Commanders and the 49ers both the big home wins. So Rand, I'll give you the opportunity to tell us which of these backup quarterbacks among the winners had the most standout performance, the one that got the Rand Carthon Ran It Back Monday seal of approval.
I'm going to go with Marcus Mariota. And I'll say this because I know we want to talk about Carson Wentz and is he back, but that was Brian Flores in the defense, right? We're just going to chalk that up. But I'll say, and we talked about it last week on the show, this guy Marcus Mariota, he is not Jaden Daniels. However, the skill sets are similar and their play style. The play style is similar, which it allows Cliff Kingsbury to call a similar type game. He doesn't have to completely scrap his offense and his system to make the backup quarterback fit in. He can continually call the plays how he has. And as a team, they ran for over 200 yards, which is the number one way to help a quarterback who is not your starter, is by getting yards on the ground. We saw our man Jeremy McNichols rip off a physical and aggressive 60-yard run. All the guys stepped up around Marcus Mariota, and what that does with the way he plays is it gives his team confidence moving forward that if he has to play another week, the team feels good about him being their starter, and they won't miss Jaden Daniels as much, but they'll be ready to get him back in there.
Hey, JJ, let me ask you this. You can talk about Marcus if you want to, but in terms of Carson Wentz, look, I think Rand's right. We need to proceed with caution. He wasn't asked to do a whole bunch. The running game was lights out. Isaiah Rodgers had 2 defensive touchdowns. That certainly helps. And Jake Browning is exactly who we thought he was. But should we feel a little bit better about Carson Wentz and the quote-unquote starter not having that much difference between them, it appears like, if the Vikings are trying to stay in the race, if you will, until they figure out their quarterback situation?
It's hard because I truly don't think that Carson Wentz is back. All right. I think that he had a really nice game where he did not screw it up. And as long as he doesn't screw it up and everyone around him is doing what they do, you're going to win by 4.5 scores like he did. I also hesitate, and I think you all can see my hesitation, because if we say that Carson Wentz is back and maybe he usurps J.J. McCarthy, who has played 7 average to bad quarters out of 8, now we're all like, hold on now, is J.J. McCarthy gonna have to sit until he's, not only until he's healthy, of course, but beyond that? I'm not willing to go that far. I think that Carson Wentz did the job that the Minnesota Vikings needed him to do. I think that the Vikings, because of what they have invested in J.J. McCarthy, aren't going to say that just because he had 2 rough starts to his career, that they are just going to say, you know what, we got to go with Carson right now. And he's just going to Wally Pip you this year until he gives it back up. I don't see that happening. That would be very bad team building from the Minnesota Vikings. So nice job, Carson Wentz. Let's see it next week when you go overseas, right? No doubt about that, Ran. But we're not talking about Carson Wentz leading the Vikings through the end of this year and into the playoffs just quite yet.
Listen, Ryan, and I'll say this because they allowed Sam Darnold to leave. They had every opportunity to either franchise him or get a long-term extension done. But they knew they wanted to move forward with J.J. McCarthy. And the way you do that is you got to live through this. This is what it is, right? Because this is his first year starting. He was drafted last year, obviously missed last year because of injury. And so the commitment is there. Carson Wentz is with this football team because he has previous knowledge of this system with the Rams. And so in the event that he needs to play, he can step in and do what he did and be able to manage the offense. But this is still very much J.J. McCarthy's team, good or bad, and that's what we're going to see the rest of the year.
All right, let me circle back to you, Rand, because you mentioned Sam Darnold, and I don't know who would have won the job last year had J.J. McCarthy not gotten hurt in preseason. Sam Darnold exceeded all our expectations, and we're going to have a conversation about this year's Sam Darnold later in the show. But you guys had Will Levis, and he struggled. He battled injuries. You did bring in Mason Rudolph, and I think so what's the math there when you have to sit a young player at the quarterback position, and then how soon, barring injury from the backup, do you go back to him? Because that's, as you're talking about, that's an incredibly tough balance, in large part because of confidence with the young player.
Well, I think the scenarios are similar but different. Similar in that Levis had an injury. Right, Levis had an injury, and you can debate how well you thought he was playing leading up to the time of the injury, but he had an injury which allowed Mason Rudolph to come in, and Mason Rudolph was efficient in those games and was moving the ball well. Again, we're talking about Carson Wentz off of one game where he wasn't asked to do too much. I think now if we see a performance where Carson Wentz comes in and he lights them up for 304 tugs, then now it's a different conversation. But if the defense continues to play as well as they are, and the offense is getting the ball in short field, and Jordan Mason is running the ball well, and they're scoring points that way, and Carson Wentz is 12 of 17 passing for 110 yards and no touchdowns and no interceptions, he still hadn't done enough, in my opinion, to continue to lead this team moving forward, because the schedule only gets tougher, and you still got to get to these division games that they're going to desperately need, especially in this division. This is a very crowded division, and you got to go with the quarterback that gives you the best chance to win.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph essentially did the same thing in Pittsburgh when Kenny Pickett was injured, and then he lost his job at the end of the season when they made that playoff run last year. Another thing to bolster your argument here, Rand, Carson had 20 attempts on Sunday. That ranked 29th among all starting quarterbacks. So he wasn't asked to do a bunch. Now they're going to play the Steelers in Ireland. We'll see. I mean, we don't know who these Steelers are. Commanders are going to Atlanta to place the Falcons team that no-showed against the Panthers. And JJ, I'll let you talk about Mac Jones if you want and what that means there. Shanahan made it clear he is still the backup. Tyrod Taylor started as well. He lost a game that they certainly could have won. And of course, Jake Brown, any of those guys. Merida mention here before we take a break?
Yeah, I liked what Mac did, and I liked what Mac did there at the end, right? I mean, look, as long as you have Christian McCaffrey, you're going to have a chance as you're the San Francisco 49ers, right? And we know that the formula for them is 120-plus scrimmage yards for Christian McCaffrey, however it comes, right? By land, by sea, whatever, and that's what we saw there, where I think he had 130-plus. After the safety, to go down and get in position. Obviously, the defense has to make a stand, right? And they did that against the Cardinals and against Kyler Murray. But to go down and lead them on the drive to get well within field goal position, because they were touching it right there until you had the little dump off pass to McCaffrey, and then he went and did what he did, and Mac Jones deserves no credit for that. He still got them in a position to get that result. I do believe that we're going to see Brock Purdy this upcoming week. So this is exactly what you asked for from a backup quarterback. Because we lived it with Mac Jones with the New England Patriots, because we saw him last year with the Jacksonville Jaguars, no one is over here saying, oh, is there a quarterback controversy in San Francisco? No, he did the exact job that you hired him to do. Right, he helped you win a couple games. He didn't win them for you. Make no mistake, he didn't win them for you, but you didn't lose because of Mac Jones. And so all's well in San Francisco. Earlier today, I said that they were the most surprising 3-0 team because of, if you had told me at the start of the season, these Niners are going to be a little banged up and they're going to have to ride with Mac Jones through 2 of their first 3 games. What do you think their record is going to be? I would not have said 3-0.
Yeah, absolutely. Rand, having worked in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan and that crew, how good do you feel about Brock Purdy coming back and eventually getting Brandon Ayuk back, and how well the defense is actually playing while they're trying to sort through all the injuries?
I mean, this is what you want, right, in this team. You want other people to step up in the absence of all these superstars that are currently hurt and that are currently down. And the other piece of it, too, is it gives these other guys experience. And so if you need to use them later in the year, if they're thrusting into the lineup later in the year, they have experience. The moment won't be too big for them. But I was thinking as JJ was talking, and specifically about Mac Jones, if you're Mac Jones, because I believe he's on a 1-year deal, at this point, why would you want to leave and chase something else? You are in a perfect system that allows you to do what you do and be who you are. And he's proven, or he's showing, I'm not saying he's proven, but he's showing the 49ers organization that, hey, I am capable to step in and make plays for you in the event that you need me. And so to me, this would be the perfect opportunity for Mac Jones to sit down, accept his role as the number 2 quarterback, and stay in a system that he knows he can thrive in.
Yeah, it's like me on this podcast. Just know your role. I'll be the third wheel. And by the way, you know how some of these young fellas do the touchdown dance where they act like they pulled a hamstring? Mm-hmm. Mac Jones does that during the game. He acts like he hurt his ankle, limping around like he's hurt. The next thing you know, he has this bionic knee brace and starts dealing down the stretch. Shout out to my guy, McCorkle. All right, let's take a quick break. We talked about Sam Darnold. We're going to talk about this year's Sam Darnold, guy I've been loving on since before the season. Rand apparently doesn't like. So we're going to ask him about Daniel Jones, how much Daniel Jones needs to get paid when we come back. All right, guys, my favorite time of the show. Got to talk about Daniel Jones. Danny Dimes. Soon to be Danny Moneybags. Rand, we come to you first as the GM. We had this conversation literally 12 months ago when Sam Darnold started dealing. That team ended up winning 14 games, I believe. Minnesota, they didn't sign him. He ended up signing in Seattle, signed a pretty big deal there. But there are history guys who have gone elsewhere and collected paydays after not working out at their initial stop. Jared Goff, Ryan Tannehill, Alex Smith, Baker, and, of course, Sam Darnold. What are you paying Daniel Jones, where currently the highest paid quarterback makes $60 million a year down in Dallas, and Dak Prescott?
What am I paying? That's a good question. I'm going to keep paying attention to see if he can keep this up for a couple more weeks, and we'll see how we get into October. Because we talked about it in terms of if he continues to play on at this level and for this team, to get something done during the season is almost the best thing to do and not let it drag out into the offseason, right? It shows the commitment to the player, and it kind of settles the mind of the organization and the players around, right? And I think that'll be great for this Colts organization because they've had some things happen with the passing of the boss man and all those things go on. And I think this will help settle it down. But right now, in this moment, heading into week 4, I will pay him attention and continue to see how he fares until October.
Hey, JJ, any conversations or anything on your radar about, as we get closer to the trade deadline, Anthony Richardson's future? Because he ain't the starter, and he may not be.
No, and that kind of folds and dovetails into Rand's point, right? Because ultimately, we are one play away in Indianapolis from seeing Anthony Richardson again, right? Nobody wants to talk about any injury. No one is wishing that upon Daniel Jones, but certainly injury can turn this entire conversation. Poor play can turn this conversation. And, I think I was on here a week ago saying, all right, I got to see it a third week from Daniel Jones. And, what he was able to do, again, to a Tennessee Titans team that is a little less than right now. But look, they got the Rams coming up. If he is able to go out there and put on the same performance that we've seen the past 3 Sundays against the LA Rams, a very reputable organization, you seriously have to discuss internally, I believe, with the Indianapolis Colts, like, oh, this is real. And we probably don't want this to go into March. Now, if you're Daniel Jones, because we just heard Rand's perspective, you just heard the team perspective. They would like to get Daniel Jones signed. Does it behoove Daniel Jones? Yes, there are some positives, right? Okay, you can take the stress off of you. But you can argue that your number will keep going up, right? And right now, if we just assume his trajectory, right? I'm not saying that if he goes 17-0, but let's say that they go 12-5. Okay, I think that's fair. That is a $42 million per year quarterback. That is what the franchise tag is going to be. And Daniel Jones and his representation are going to say, oh, you don't want to give us a long-term contract? Well, then franchise tag us or let us hit free agency. So he's going to get 42 in 2026. So is it going to be a 3-year deal that averages that? What is that, $126 million? That to me is the number, so long as he stays on this trajectory. And at that point, that is when, of course, you would trade Anthony Richardson.
Hey, Rand, let me put this out there. So JJ mentioned 42 is maybe the dotted line written in pencil. Sam Darnold's deal, average annual value, $33.5 million. Baker Mayfield makes $33.5 as well. And then Geno makes 37 on the deal that he just signed with the Raiders. North of that, the next closest person in terms of average annual value, Matthew Stafford makes 42. So where do you fall on that spectrum? Are you going to pay him 42 plus? Or are you going to try to lowball him?
I mean, of course, from the team perspective, you're going to try to lowball them, right?
Okay.
You're going to try to get
Appreciate your honesty.
deal, in that range if you can. But like JJ said, you know that in the highest terms of it, the franchise tag could be the floor, right? Because that's what his representation is going to ask for. So the truth of the matter is the answer is somewhere in the middle, right? Because to quote the great Fat Joe, Don Cartagena, yesterday's price is not today's price. And so whatever Sam Darnold got last year on the open market, the number is going to go up at least by 10% or so or whatever it is. And that's where Daniel Jones, because all these dudes are benefiting from Dak making 60 and all these other guys are making 50, and it keeps pushing the floor up. So all these guys are benefiting off of what guys got in the previous year. So the true answer of it is somewhere between 33 and 42, and it's whatever you can decide to settle on. But if I'm Daniel Jones, I'm not playing. Or I'm telling my representation, hey, look, guys, you work for me and I don't work for you. We're going to get something done. Like, this is the one time in my professional career where I have stability and I have found myself. I don't want to play this game and try to run the price up. Let's get a number that we're both happy with so we can move forward.
And Ryan, let me say this one thing, because I was texting around about Daniel Jones and just kind of asking, hey, why is it working in Indy? And I know that we all can have opinions, and I just wanted to say that from a source, it was, why is this working for Daniel Jones? And they said, it's a belief in his ability from the coaching staff and the organization, a strong offensive line, people are not talking about all that much, solid weapons, and a quality defense. And so obviously he's playing with confidence early. Things can always turn in the NFL, but confidence, right? Something he did not have around him in New York, maybe belief from the full organization for reasons that were some on him as well. We got to be honest about that, right? He gets the fresh start. People can, you don't have the ghosts and the demons of past, and now he's able to thrive in Indy.
Tell your source to keep watching With the First Pick podcast, Ran It Back Mondays, because we said all that.
That's exactly right.
Rand just wanted to brand himself again. He loves saying Ran It Back Mondays more than anyone. By the way, Alec Pierce, balling out. Jonathan Taylor, balling out. JJ talked about that offensive line that we don't talk a lot about. And we repeat this repeatedly, as one does when they repeat things. The confidence level that Daniel Jones is playing with is we have not seen that during his NFL career. And the weapons he has around him, he did not have in New York. JJ, I'm going to come back to you because this is something I watched as I tried to watch what was called the football game yesterday between the Patriots and the Steelers. That was some of the ugliest. That's that football back a good 40, 50 years. Late in the second quarter, and producer Sharon, I don't know if we're allowed to show it or not, but if we can, you can flash it. If not, I'll just describe it. Late in the second quarter, they're driving the Patriots. There it is. He gets sandwiched here. Drake May does by two edge rushers from the Steelers. Grabs his head immediately because he banged it on the turf. JJ, there was no UNC, no neurological consultant notified. No one stopped the game. And I'll tell you what Drake May said afterwards, because it's troubling. He said after the game, he was asked, no, I feel good. I've learned from last year, if you get banged up, you got to get back up quick or they'll spot you. That's a terrible look for an organization and an outfit. Rand's shaking his head. So I want to hear JJ's thoughts first as to why something didn't happen, and then Rand can tell me why it's okay.
I mean, the simplest answer is exactly what we would talk about with like the Tush push and why they didn't call a false start. They just missed it. They're supposed to call it. Like it actually is that black and white. When the quarterback goes down and hits his head, the back of his head like that, that is a mechanism that spotters should look for. Okay, we've seen that. We know what it is. We've seen it many, many times. What they have added to the concussion protocol is when the quarterback puts his hands to his head like this. And now sometimes you can adjust the face mask. Some quarterbacks don't want to do that because it could look a certain way. If you've seen enough ball, you know that Drake May was not adjusting his helmet for a comfort. That was I got my bell rung, for lack of a better phrase, right? And so that is where the spotter is supposed to say, oh, no, go down, independent neurological consultant, grab him the red hat, and give him a quick concussion protocol test. Or not even a quick one, but the concussion protocol test. That did not take place. And there's no, whatever the NFL ultimately is going to say on or off the record, that did not take place. And Drake Maye said what every player, I think, Ran, ultimately believes. And that is, as long as I don't see it, I feel okay. I'm going back out there. I'm not missing a snap.
Yeah, and I'll just say this real quick. Excuse me. Yes, I agree 100%. Him grabbing his head to me signified that he should have been taken off and he should have seen the neurological consultant on the sideline. I 100% agree with that. But the reason why I made that face was because when a player says what he said in terms of like, I don't want them to see it and think it's something, it's not all the time a concussion. And sometimes it's a shoulder, a neck, or whatever. And so the slightest thing you do, they're going to pull you off. And now you're in a close game and you're being taken out of the game for 5 to 10 minutes for a concussion that you know really doesn't exist. But on this particular play, yeah, he definitely got his bell rung and should have came out of the game.
No, I'm with you. I agree. Like, it's not on the players. It's not the players' responsibility. They're incredibly competitive, type A personalities. They want to be out there. That's why we hire people to be like, hey, maybe this guy got his head banged up a little bit and should come out, and it didn't happen. And I get what Drake Maye's saying. Like, I understand all that, but it is just crazy that I'm half paying attention to a game that's hard to watch anyway, and I noticed it, and then no one who gets paid to do it thought it was worth buzzing down to the field. Hopefully Drake Maye's okay. Fantastic football player. They just turned the ball over too much yesterday. The Patriots did not lose to the Steelers. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back here, guys, I don't know if you knew, producer Sharon's a big Eagles fan, so I want to hear his excuses of why the tush push is still okay. And we're going to talk about how that became a controversy yet again on Sunday right after this break. All right, guys, let's talk a little tush push because apparently we can't go more than a week of football games without talking about it. Coming into this matchup where the Eagles were hosting the Rams, and the Rams are putting the hurting on them, the conversation was the tush push will be closely monitored. The league made it clear that they don't want to see Eagles players false starting prior to the snap. That's exactly what happened. Producer Sharon, show us, because this was a conversion that led to a first down, and then the very next play, and you can watch Tyler Steen here jump off. There he is, false starting. Again, not called. Maybe the same people that watch for the concussions are the same people watching for the tush push. Very next play, they tush pushed it again into the end zone. The Rams are still dominating at this point, but the Eagles came back to win. JJ, I'll come to you as our insider. How long does the tush push have left, and why was this not called in real time? Because, again, it wasn't that hard to spot.
Yeah, second question first. They just missed it. And I feel fairly confident in saying that there is not some grand conspiracy within the NFL to allow the Philadelphia Eagles to run this play to the degree at which they do so successfully, because the league at large does not like the play. For whatever reason or reasons, the league does not like the play. So if people were motivated to overflag, well, we should be seeing it right now. It's actually
right.
Strange that they missed it. The team that actually has been flagged for this more than anyone else, the New Orleans Saints, they had a flag thrown on them yesterday. They had a flag thrown on them for offensive offside in week 1. So officials have gotten the word. The officials who have gotten the word happen to be playing or officiating Saints games and not Eagles games. What is going to happen in the offseason? I don't know what team is going to propose a rule change. I don't know if they are going to naturally propose it or if the NFL is going to lean very heavily on them and say, hey, you owe us a favor, push this rule through. Or you could always get it through the competition committee. And there are a number of ways. This is almost like a schoolhouse rock. There are a number of ways that a bill can become a law. There are a number of ways that a rule proposal can be ushered in and ultimately voted upon and a rule changed. Whatever it is, this offseason, I am telling you, we are going. These are the last tush pushes on Earth. Okay, we're not going to see it in 2026. So I do not know how it is going to ultimately be prohibited, but it will be prohibited at some point in the offseason. So Philadelphia Eagles, Buffalo Bills, and others, enjoy it while you can.
JJ, why didn't it get banned last offseason? Because it got close. Who were the people supporting it outside of Philadelphia?
Okay, so a couple of things. They needed 24 of the 32 votes. Remember, these aren't coaches who are voting, right? It was weird when we were at the owners' meetings and everybody went to the coaches and were like, how are you going to vote? And like, Todd Bowles doesn't have a vote, right? The Glazer family has a vote. And so it's the owners, and the owners vote on it, and they don't like it, they've gotten beaten by it, they believe, hey, if you can't beat it, do better. They're ambivalent to it. They like or don't like Jeffrey Lurie. All of those factors are involved in the voting. But the thing that the NFL didn't have, they didn't have any injury data. Or I should say, the data that they did have on the Tush Push revealed a 0% injury rate on the play. So you couldn't really use the health and safety argument because everybody's like, this appears to be a safer play than other scrimmage plays, so you can't get me on that. But what you can get, and this was a thread that the league and others didn't pull, is this is so impossible to officiate that if you run it so well, you can get away with it, and you can get away with the crime. And if they had pulled at that thread a little bit, true or not, and I think we're watching, it might be a little true, that maybe they would have banned it this offseason.
Hey, so I'm going to set the over or under for flags thrown on the Tush Push this week at 2. Where are we going?
I'll go over.
Now, are we talking around the NFL or on the Eagles?
No, we're just talking. I'm talking strictly Eagles.
I'm going to go under.
Yeah, I'll go under, actually. I think they'll get one flag thrown on them, but we are going to see it around the league, and you're going to see an offensive offside. You could see a defensive offside, and, of course, everyone is going to be looking for the false start.
Hey, Rain, what were your thoughts on the Tush Push? Defending it? I don't know if you guys ran it. I don't remember. You certainly, I mean, it wasn't a thing when you were in college, but what are your thoughts on it as someone who is in a front office trying to not get Tush pushed, if you will?
Well, my personal feeling is I'm tired of talking about it, first and foremost. Because to me, man, it's a football play that was designed by the Philadelphia Eagles. And to me, it signifies to all these defensive coordinators who we're paying a ton of money to figure out a way to stop it. Now, here's the one as JJ was talking about it. And I thought, I'm like, all right, when did they actually start using it? And then if my memory serves me correct, Shane Steichen was the offensive coordinator in Philly when they started using it, and he doesn't run it in Indianapolis, which to me signifies that you have to have the proper personnel to do it, and Philadelphia does. You have a quarterback who squats over 600 pounds, and then you have a back behind him who's pushing, who also squats 600 pounds. And so they just have a different personnel that the rest of the league isn't fit to defend at this point. And so to me, don't ban it because everyone can't stop it. To me, that's not fair. Ban it because there is safety reasons, safety concerns. And like JJ said, there hadn't been any data that says that there are safety concerns for that. But you don't ban it. You don't ban it because people can't defend it and because the officials don't officiate it properly. So to me, those are not reasons why you should ban it. But like JJ said, we're talking about it every week. There's going to be an eagle eye, no pun intended, an eagle eye on how it's going to be officiated moving forward. And so it's going to be something that's going to come up. They're going to have these talks in October when they have these labor seminar meetings coming up with the owners and front office folks. The conversation will start there, and then it's going to carry over to the owners' meetings. And like JJ said, it will ultimately be dropped from the game next year.
I'm of the opinion that Shane Steichen doesn't run it with the Colts because Daniel Jones is a national treasure. But that's just me. Look, that's not why the Rams lost. The Rams lost because Jordan Davis is a freakish athlete, and we sometimes forget that because he plays next to Jalen Carter. They had 2 blocked field goals at the end there. The Eagles did. Jordan Davis is the heaviest player in NFL history, ran at 336 pounds to return a block kick, 50-plus yards for the touchdown. They didn't even need the touchdown. The game was over at that point. But Sunday was rife with special teams standouts. So I'll ask you this question, and you can take it any direction you want to go. You and our buddy Pete Prisco talked about this a few weeks ago. He hates the kickoff rule. I love it because it opens everything up, and we've seen special teams be incredibly important to winning football games over the first 3 weeks.
Listen, I love special teams, and I think special teams is the key to a lot of these games. And I like this kickoff rule. It takes you a while because if you're a football purist and you only know the kickoff to be one way, it takes you a little bit to get used to it. But you have to look at the kickoff as technically the first offensive play from scrimmage, right? Mm-hmm. And the way now, because of these special teams coaches, they're now forcing these returners back there to have ball skills and not just be able to catch the ball in the air. They're kicking knuckleballs. You got to judge these balls properly. Yes, and so for this play, I think the kickoff should stay the way it is. And we're looking at all these blocked field goals from yesterday. It was just a big day on both sides for these special teams units. These coaches that gave up these kicks, oh my God, the week of practice for their units is going to be pure hell. And these guys it's going to be a higher attention to detail. But we had multiple kickoff returns or kick returns for touchdowns yesterday, the two big block field goals. This is what the game is about. And they wanted special teams back in the game, and they got it yesterday. And like you said, the big fella hit 18.6 on the GPS at 330 pounds. And I'm going to give him some love for the other block field goal. It hit Jalen Carter first, but it hit the doink. And so he got a little piece of it, too, off the deflection. So I'm going to give the big man some love. And, by the way, he was balling out on defense before those plays because he had the big fourth down stop for Philadelphia that got the ball, Philly got the ball back, and I think they went down and scored, and that was the Devontae Smith touchdown, I think, after that. So he was balling on defense already.
Ryan, I'm going to offer up one theory on this quickly before we go to break here. And you mentioned it with Jordan Davis, who, big fella, running the way that he does at 336. Obviously, there is a different size and shape and athleticism of the guys in the middle of the line these days, right? And I think because this new kickoff rule, I think actually everything kind of connects a little bit. And Rand, I'd love to talk with you more about this. Because the kickoff rule, all these teams are trying to figure out, okay, our special teams players, do we want to be bigger or shorter and faster? Do we want to be bigger and stronger on kickoff, right? Do we want the 4-3 defensive end or the 3-4 defensive end? And I think what you're seeing now with all the blocked punts is that some of these teams, they have such differing body types. Not that they're spending less practice time on this stuff, but the matchups aren't as hand in glove maybe as they used to be. And we're starting to see some of those mismatches where, okay, punt return team, that's a struggle of ours because we focused our resources on teamers to the kickoff return maybe, or that's why these kicks are getting blocked. I don't know. It's just one theory because we're seeing it a lot this year. The second year of the dynamic kickoff across all special teams. And I think it's a bit of a team building question that I have in my theory.
No, that's a good point. And that sort of beckons maybe a Moneyball conversation about allocation of resources when you talk about this new phase of the game that's now more important. No, I love that. That's I look forward to talking about that in the future. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back here, we're going to talk about two veteran quarterbacks that found their ways to the bench and who came in for them and what that means for a guy named Tyler Shuck and what Kirk Cousins. We'll talk about that right after this. All right, guys, some veteran quarterback quotation marks got sent to the bench and blowout losses. Yeah. Bunny ears, as our colleague John Breach calls him. I don't know why. He's 12 years old, I suppose. Tyler Shuck replaced Spencer Rattler, my guy, in a blowout loss. And after the game, the conversation was Spencer did fine, but we don't need to be throwing the ball all the time, which speaks to them being down early. And, of course, Michael Penix Jr., also in his second year, got replaced by Kirk Cousins in sort of a surprise development when they got the doors blown up by the aforementioned Carolina Panthers. So, Rand, I know you have some thoughts on Michael Penix Jr., which are curious to me. So I want to hear them in full-throated to make sure we're on the same page, because I feel like we're not.
So I'll say this. He did not play well yesterday. I think everyone knows that, which is why their team got beat 30-0. But I just want to take it back a step. If you wanted to end last year, the hope is a strong emotion. I know you said you have your quote that your father taught you about hope, but hope is a strong emotion, especially for a team that is looking, that needs something to go into the offseason, that needs positivity going into the offseason. And so when they inserted Michael Penix Jr. into the lineup, everyone's excited. And I can't remember what their record was the last 3 or 4 games was that he started. But if you look at the numbers, he completed 58% of his passes, right? Which doesn't say that he played all that well, right? But it says that he made some plays that gave the fan base something to be excited about, especially coming off of the way that Kirk Cousins has played. Now, you come into the season this year, and through 3 games or whatever it is, he's still completing 58% of his passes. So it's one of those deals where you have one of the more talented young backs in the league in Bijan Robinson in the backfield. You have Drake London. You have Kyle Pitts. You have a strong, solid offensive line. And you have a defense that is starting to play well, that are starting to play Raheem Morris type of football. My only concern, or it's not even a concern, my comment on the quarterback play is this. I think too much has been put on Michael Penix Jr. and who he can be for this Falcons team. This Falcons team is still going to live and die by how Bijan Robinson plays. And if you're able to take Bijan Robinson out of the game, then it's going to pose problems for this offense moving forward. And I think you saw that yesterday. Ejiro Evero, the defensive coordinator for Carolina, who I have a ton of respect for, he didn't just come up with a game plan that was miraculous this one time. This is what he did yesterday is what defenses are going to continue to do moving forward. They're going to look at this game and try to find these ways to have the same results. But I just want to say that Michael Penix is an older quarterback, so he isn't one of the young guys that needs time to development. All I'm saying is what we're seeing out of Michael Penix, is this who he is as a quarterback moving forward? I don't know that.
Well, let me follow up quickly before JJ responds. Can you win with this version of Michael Penix Jr.? Because I feel like you can. And number 2, are you staying with Michael Penix Jr.? Or are you thinking about bringing Kirk back?
I mean, Raheem Morris said it clear as day. Like, there shouldn't be any argument. I agree. You're losing 30-0. Get him out of there, right? Because we got to live to see another. Hey, okay, we lost this game, and this is going to be our future moving forward. We got to protect him. Well, let's put Kirk in. They're not going back to Kirk Cousins. No. That's not happening. They're not going back to Kirk Cousins. Can you win with Michael Penix? The way he played yesterday, no, clearly you can't win with that. Now, he's going to have to improve from an accuracy standpoint. But like I said, in all the weapons that I laid out, and I left out Tyler Algiers, you have a good 1-2 punch. You're going to have to ride these guys, and you can't just put the game in Michael Penix's hands and expect him to be the reason why you win. You're going to win with him, right? You're going to win with Michael Penix. You're not going to give the whole thing to him, put it on his shoulders, and expect him to lead you to the promised land.
I'll say this, Ran. You drafted him 8th overall. So, like, what you were saying about Michael Penix Jr. and how they're going to go as Bijan Robinson goes, which sounds like you were listening to me on CBS Sports HQ last week, because I literally said that in a semi-viral clip. But that's what I just said about Mac Jones and the San Francisco 49ers. Like, hey, good for you, Mac. You didn't lose in the game as the backup quarterback. Christian McCaffrey got his 120, and you did okay. So we can't say that necessarily. Like Michael Penix, you're saying it, we can say it, but Michael Penix Jr. at the 8th overall pick, who unseated a $40 million per year quarterback on a team that went offense, every first-round draft pick that Terry Fontenot ever got the opportunity to have, in a division that year in, year out is winnable. The quarterback should be winning them some games, I would argue, right? And he's not. Like last year, it was 58%. I 1,000% agree with you. You want to see that step up. And while Bijan is their best offensive player and probably their best player, right, just period, point blank, if he is neutralized, I need the quarterback to step up. I don't need to say, wow, they neutralized Bijan Robinson, so there's no chance we win this game. We got Mac Jones back there. Like, now, we got Michael Penix Jr. back there. We can still win. We just got to figure out ways.
Yeah, but my argument was the exact same thing you said. Like, teams are now going to stack the box and say Michael Penix Jr. is going to have to beat us. And that's where I'm saying he's going to have to step up and deliver, passes more accurately and give those guys those weapons time and space to catch the ball and run. So that's what you're going to have to get out of him. Now, again, you talk about him being drafted in the 8th overall spot. That's not his fault. He didn't pick himself. But that's the onus, and this is a whole nother conversation, and I know we got to go to break, but this is the part of the quarterback position where we take these guys so high, and then the pressure is on them to lead these franchises, and it's not all entirely their fault.
JJ, it sounds like Rand's trying to go semi-viral, too. Have to do it on the next clip.
Hey, just clip that and just say, this is Rand Carthon delivering.
And they'll say, this is why I'm on CBS Sports HQ.
All right, let's take a quick break. We come back here. We're going to talk about our under-the-radar Week 3 players and standouts, and we'll do that right after this last break here. All right, let's wrap things up with our under-the-radar player from Week 3. And, JJ, I'll come to you because yours is a very interesting name. He was drafted in the first round 3 years ago and decided to finally show up in 2025. Who you got?
I'm going with Quentin Johnston, wide receiver for the LA Chargers, who against the Denver Broncos, 6 catches on 10 targets for 89 yards. But it's not just that. It's that he is finally showing up, averaging so far through the first 3 weeks of the season about 80 receiving yards per game, which I think he only had 2 100 receiving yard games in the first 2 seasons of his career. He's already up about 30 more yards per game than he was last year, almost 55 more yards per game than he was his rookie year. So, hey, you know what he did? What I imagine he did? He didn't look at his mentions. He didn't check the social media apps. He just kept his head down. He grinded. He worked. And we're seeing the fruits of that labor. Shout out Quentin Johnston.
No, I love that because that can go any number of directions. A lot of them not good. He had some big drops his first 2 years, and he feels like a completely different player. So shout out to him. Rand, you went with Eagles offensive lineman Fred Johnson. I take that to mean you're fine with the tush push being illegal. What did Fred do that got your attention in Week 3?
No, so when Lane Johnson went down, which is a huge loss for the Philadelphia Eagles, Matt Pryor came in, and he really struggled. And that Rams front sent the heat and sent the pressure, and Jalen Hurts took a ton of big shots off of that side. But then once Fred Johnson was inserted in the lineup, it felt like everything kind of stabilized there. And then that's when the offense got rolling because he entered the game in the third quarter. And then that's when, in the second half of it, that's when the team got rolling. And you got to remember, I think he left in free agency and signed somewhere. And then they traded for him to bring him back as a part of this offensive line. And so shout out to fellow Gator Fred Johnson, the way he stepped in for the Eagles this week. Don't roll your eyes, JJ. Sorry.
No, that's why.
Quickly, Rand, is Howie Roseman the best general manager in the NFL?
I would say right now, yes, he is.
Yeah. Feel like every button he pushes is the right button. I'm going to go with Luther Burden III, second-round pick of the Chicago Bears. First 2 weeks of the season, and I'm not even joking. JJ could have done this. 2 catches for 2 yards. JJ does that all day. He does that in his sleep. On Sunday, 3 catches for 101 yards, including that flea flicker touchdown pass. I think he's going to get more involved in this offense as we get through this thing. So that's a fun development. They got to get Colton Loveland going, their tight end first-round pick. But that Bears offense starting to look pretty good. Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson. All right, Raining Back Mondays in the book for Week 3. Just so you know, on Wednesday, Young Fellow Wednesdays, where Rand and I talk about a bunch of young college quarterbacks. We'll talk about some standout performances from the rookies, Cam Ward, of course, and some other non-QBs. So y'all can look forward to that. In the meantime, thanks to my guy, Jonathan Jones, CBS Insider. Thanks to Rand Carthon, former Titans GM. We will see you guys in the next one.